It's Don here from the board. Thanks for coming along and checking out this video. So today's video is going to be a really big departure from my usual kind of content. Of note, you would have seen recently I'm doing a lot more things to do with woodworking and in the shed. There's just probably less keyboard content really available for me to work on. But today's content is, I guess, a little bit more personal. The title of it from the video you probably would have seen is basically talking about pearl necklace, restringing a pearl necklace or something of that nature. I haven't titled it yet at the time that I am recording this. So what's the deal with that? Um, the reason why this is personal is because last week my mum brought out a set of pearls, a pearl necklace where the string had broken, and she'd asked me if I could try and restring it, if I could repair it. So I'm relatively handy. I've never done it before, but I said to Mum, I can definitely have a look at it. I can give it a try. And Mum sort of said, sure, please do so. And the reason why she'd asked me to was because they were her mother's, my grandmother's. And my grandmother passed away in November last year. She was 100 and, well, she would have turned 101 a couple of weeks ago if she was still around with us today. And so, in that way, this pearl necklace is a family heirloom of sorts. So I thought I'd just share a little bit of, my family history, and the fact that this is a special necklace, and hopefully I'll be able to restring it. But you know what? At the end of the day, as long as the pearls themselves aren't damaged, I can always try and try and try again. So we'll see how we go. But here's a picture of my grandmother's family. So this is great, great, my great grandfather. Yes, this is my great grandfather. This is my great grandmother. And this young lady here was my grandmother. Uh, we don't actually know when this was taken, but obviously a very long time ago when she was quite young, probably around maybe, 7 to 8 years old kind of age by the looks of her. And this was my grandmother back in 2016 when my daughter was born and we went to visit. So, she's had a long life. I think hopefully that she had a really happy life. She had a large number of kids, my mother being one of at least four. With Asian cultures and things like that, I am aware that children were actually given away. Culturally speaking, it was not an unheard of practice back then for when you just couldn't afford to raise the kids of your own. So my mother actually has sisters who are blood sisters, but they were basically adopted by other families. So I actually don't know the full range of that history. So she passed away peacefully, old age and things of that nature. But yeah, that's um, that's my grandmother. And it was great that she was able to meet a couple of times her great grandchildren. So, all right, now let's get down to the table. So here is the actual necklace itself in bits and pieces. But what I've done, I just went online and I looked at some videos and looked at some tools and things that I would need. And what I have done is I've purchased 2 lots of silk thread because I've read that silk thread is the best kind of medium for pearls because it's not likely to damage the pearls and they have a good amount of strength. I've also read that you should be looking for a size of thread that allows you to put 2 strands through the actual drill hole of the pearls. So I measured them with my verniers, and I think the hole is around 0.65. So I got the size 0, which is 0.3. So double that up becomes 0.6, so there should be enough space to get through that. And when you tie knots in between, it should also stop it from slipping through. And knotting as a technique allows you to basically keep pearls from falling off uh, when the strand breaks, because only the one in the segment that has had the string break will fall out, whereas the others should stay. So apparently this Griffin brand is really highly rated. So I thought I'd just get 2 in case I stuff one up. It's 2 meters long. I think if that's doubled up, then it means it should be 1 meter, which is actually quite long for what I need. What I've also purchased is a 14 karat gold lobster claw there. So that's a replacement one. There is one already on it, but I thought I'd just put a new one on. I've got some closed jump loops, so that will be used to do the other side, and the lobster claw will hook onto that. And then I've also got some 14 karat gold crimps. So essentially these will be used to crimp the tied off knots and also act as spacers between the jump loop and also the lobster claw. All right, so what else have I got here? I've purchased a very simple, very cheap, unbranded pair of crimps because they have the small sort of space to crimp the 2.5 mil, 3 mil crimps, so they've got a good amount of thickness on it. They don't meet up perfectly flat, but for I don't know, $17 or whatever it was, it's not that big a deal. And then I have a knot tying tool. So this is a new one to me. Essentially how this works is it's got very sharp things on it. You tie the knot around this spike, and then one end, the loose end, goes through that, and then you pull on it tight with one side this way, one side that way to the items, and as you push it up, it will push the knot towards the object end, towards the pearl or the bead end, and give it a really nice cinched knot. So we will see how that goes. It's very sharp, so it's nice that they do give you a protective tip for it. I mean, I don't know why that needs the tip, but I suppose you could jab yourself with that as well. And then what I've got over here is just some side snip scissors to cut the thread with as required and things of that nature. I probably should get some forceps to work with if I need to, because things are very small, and I do have some jeweler's loop over there. So this is the actual pearls themselves, and I'm just going to put them into this wood tray that I made myself to stop them from going everywhere, and I'm working just on a mat as well to reduce that. So it's not a huge necklace. Some of them are still on string, but they're all going to have to come off eventually anyway. And yeah, they're sort of looping around themselves a bit at the moment. Let's just turn off that front camera because it's not really serving much purpose anymore. Yeah. So let's just peel all of these off since they're going to have to come off anyway. And see, they weren't individually knotted in between each pearl. So what I was talking about earlier is the fact that there's actually, this is the original lobster claw. It's got a bit of age and wear on it, so might as well replace it. And they've already got a double crimp arrangement on it, as it were. But then they've got, a knot on the end to stop the pearl from abrading against the crimp. And yeah, I think that was just a knot to stop that, to give it a bit of separation, and the jump loop of the lobster claw. So then on the other side of that necklace string, similarly so. Just going to pop these all off. Gently, gently. So they don't go flying everywhere. Oh, okay, so that end is being a bit stubborn. There we go. Similarly on that side, all it had was just a jump loop with, so that's a closed jump loop. It looks like it's been either soldered or covered with some kind of resin or epoxy, and then two spacing crimps, and then the knot tied off there as well. So I'm going to try and replicate that basically. So for the moment, we're just going to put that aside. I asked my mother about the actual spacing of this, and I said, is there a particular length? And she said, no, it's just that they're all butted up against each other. So what I will end up with is actually going to be slightly longer because there's going to be a knot in between every one of them. It's advised because you don't want the pearls rubbing against each other. They'll damage themselves against that over time with the abrasion of the pearl to pearl. So, when you've got a pearl to pearl and they're sitting and contacting and rubbing, they'll actually wear. Whereas if there's a small knot in between, it'll give them that space to not wear against each other. So there's quite a few here. I don't even know how many of them there are, but that's okay. They can stay like that. So, now comes the tricky part. How do I start this off? Now, these Griffin ones actually come with a needle in them, so that it's actually pre-threaded onto a needle. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to buy it, because it would make life a lot easier for a complete newbie like myself. So, nope, that's not the needle. Where is the needle? I swear. Oh, there it is. Is that the needle? No. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, so this loopy metal thing here, this semicircle looking thing, is the flexible needle. It's so thin. It's yeah, it's just a little bit of metal, very flexible metal that is pre-threaded. Man, I hope I don't break it, because is it the metal? Is the needle there? Or is the needle in here? I'm so confused. No, that is the needle. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I've kinked it. Look at that. See, it's pre-threaded and it's got a slight kink on it. But it should be okay. Alright, so I don't really know how I'm doing this, by the way, because there are not a lot of instructions around this. The only thing that I know about is that I probably should do one end and tie it off onto like so like I should unwrap this entire length and then tie off the end of it, and then that will allow me to put it through the jump ring or the lobster claw, depending on whichever side that I'm starting with, and then I can put in my double knots, and that will basically, yeah, give me that starting point. All right, well, let's just put that on the side. So this end is completely open. Now, if this is already pre-threaded, I'm supposed to double it up. So how do I, is that 1 meter or is that 2 meters? Okay, so that's 2 meters this way, which means I actually need to double it up. But if they've already pre-threaded it onto this, Does that mean I've got to go through, around, and then come back? Oh, it does. How's that work? If I put that through a jump ring, because essentially I need to, so what I'm doing is just I'm taking the ends of that because I need it to be doubled up. But this is actually threaded through a single end of that. So do I go through all the pearls once, through the jump ring, and then back all through the pearls again a second time? But if I do that, how do I do my knot tying? No, okay. So I need to have some kind of like, yeah, okay. Let's try this madness. I need something that I can put like as a bar through this that I can remove it later, because that will be important. Important. All right, let's just take one of these things that I might have around here. Okay, there we go. All right, so I've got this random chopstick tip that it was a screw-on chopstick and it broke. This is going to be all sorts of bads. If you are a beading type of person and you see this, please, more than happy to hear your feedback on this, by the way, because I know that this is probably going to make you absolutely cringe or something with how wrong I am and how badly I'm doing with this. But while I'm here, I might as well try and just clean up a little bit. Just with my, probably shouldn't be using my fingernails, but my nails are pretty soft, so they're not going to be terribly abrasive. So you might be saying, well, don't I need to put knots in between? I can actually knot these as I go afterwards. So my understanding is that you can knot them afterwards. It's just that I'd have to sling them around each other. But this is also why I bought 2 packets of thread. And look, to be honest, it was like $10 for a lot of silk thread pre-needled. It's not the cheapest thing in the world for what they are, but these are also really important to my mum. So it's $10, like whatever. If I stuff this up again, I'll just cut it and then I will research some more and then I will buy another lot and go again. Like these are precious, you know, in many ways. I mean, I don't know the quality of these pearls. They're certainly not huge pearls, but they have age to them. They have history to them. They have sentimental value to them. So at the end of the day, they're priceless, right? Now this is going to take some time. So do bear with me. You can skip ahead, but maybe there will be periods of silence if I don't know what I'm going to talk about. These holes are very small. What? And I'm feeling very blind because this needle is like they call it a needle, right? But it's so wibbly wobbly because it's so thin and flexible that it's like, yeah, it's very hard to maintain focus on these. Uh, yeah. So in regards to the channel in general, I'm kind of at crossroads around what to do because I like making content, but making content is hard, you know? Making content constantly is hard. And if it gets repetitive, if it's the same stuff over and over and over, it doesn't really provide you with value. I mean, if you just like to watch stuff and it's somebody talking about something in particular, or if it's, you just like to listen to somebody talk and be familiar with it, that's fine. But I like to be able to provide different things and show experiences, skills, learning. Reviews are different because obviously that's to make an assessment, right? But doing a build stream and stuff like that, that's cool because you're building different things. But it's hard to make content. And I'm not a big channel. I'm not well connected. I'm not rich and, I don't stream and I don't have a huge following. So I don't really get the same opportunities within the the keyboard realm these days anyway, and also because work and family and everything else, it's hard at times to be able to lock down a good amount of time to be able to do that kind of content. So, with the cost of living, with prices of everything going up, with a mortgage and kids going to school and all that kind of stuff, uh, yeah, it is hard. The woodworking stuff, it's also difficult if I don't have particular projects that I think are worthwhile trying to do. There are projects that I film bits and pieces of that don't work. I mean, I could show failures of them, but then they're going to be kind of unsatisfying, right? Because they just didn't fully work. So yeah, it's one of those really tricky spaces, and then you get people who will be looking at the channel who will always be out to critique the channel positively or negatively, and then people start to, as they say, fall off, right? There's one particular channel, and their content is very much the same all the time. It is do this, but it's just different material. And I'm not talking about a keyboard person, but and I saw in Discord recently that people were saying, oh, like it's boring now because it's the same. A did this, B, you know, and then C. And I get it. There are certain content types that is what it is, especially if it's going to be food related, right? And so those guys start to push the boundaries and try to do things more and more and more out there, and then it just starts to potentially get ridiculous. It's kind of like what happened to Epic Mealtime. They start off with an interesting idea, a fun idea, a ridiculous idea, but then it just got worse and worse and worse, and they ended up having health issues because they were just making and eating and consuming stuff that was just insane, uh, very unhealthy for them and stuff like that. So, content creation is a challenge for a lot of people. For some people, it's not a challenge at all because there's a wide variety of things to do. And even with like Tim Scott, for example, he did content for a decade, I think, and he said, like you get to a point where you've made potentially everything that you've wanted to make. And then, of course, you get people who will make stuff and then they're not happy with it because they're constantly chasing the algorithm and it's not giving them the results. And you get people who end up being famous, no fault of their own, but then they don't want to have to deal with the fame relating to it, either because it's impacting their family or because, there's like ramifications. So, for example, with Demolition Ranch and somebody wearing one of their products being involved with an incident that caused all sorts of issues. So yeah, it's a challenging space these days to be a content creator and to be an influencer. I don't think that I want to be an influencer in the way that it's not the way that I am trying to make a living. It's not a way that I'm trying to be famous. I think it's less that I want to be an influencer, more that I want to be a educator and sharer of thoughts. One of my best videos, in fact, on this channel that I've had really positive feedback on, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before, is on systems engineering. It's like a high level explanation of one of the ways to do systems engineering. And it is constantly, regularly being looked at because I think it's educational and it provides value to a lot of people. So I'm really, really glad that I made that video and stuff like that. And it's like the maths uh, guy who is like super well known, has people following him because he teaches maths in a way that makes sense and is of value. Uh, so I do this to entertain myself, I guess. I make content to try and help others. And it's just one of those things which I guess at some point in time it will slow down even more, or it might even stop. So I don't know when that is. I don't know how that ending's going to be. Uh, yeah. And the next phase of what's happening here in my family and my life is work, but we are trying to gear up to do renovation and an extension of the house. And when that happens, it's going to be very disruptive. We're going to have to move out for a number of weeks, possibly a couple of months, when they rip out our walls, our ceiling, our floor, and rebuild certain bits and pieces of it, and things like that. So I will lose access to, you know, how my setup is right now as it is, um, and I will lose access to my shed, and I will, have all sorts of challenges in content creating at that point in time. So that might be a natural hiatus, I guess, for things to come. Okay, so now this is where it gets tricky because I have now threaded all of said pearls onto this. And now I need to go back. I need to thread it back. So I don't want it on this side where this is right now because this is the needle end. I actually need to go this way back through all of the ones that I've done. So I'm going to go back this way. And what that's going to do is it's going to leave me a loop here that I will be able to put through a jump loop, and then I can actually tie it off. So now comes the fun part of trying to get this through, back through this. Will it work? Can I do it? Will it let me? Yes, it will. Okay, one. And then I've just got to make sure that that is not going to, because now I've got to pull all of these through. Uh, the other thing these days is it's really hard to, express yourself in a way without potentially getting caught up in politics, being caught up in things that somebody somewhere might get outraged about that you just don't know about. And, people talk about getting cancelled all the time. I mean, keyboards is not really a very contentious space, so, we really shouldn't be likely to get cancelled anytime soon. I hope not. Um, yeah, so that's another fun one. Uh, but yeah, okay. I wish I had a slightly brighter light, I think, because this is definitely very hard to see. I'm doing okay. I think if I wasn't recording this, this is something that you could do obviously slowly, and it could actually be quite therapeutic. And I can see why people enjoy beading as a hobby. It's just working with your hands. You don't have to think too hard as you go through some of these mechanical steps, but I can also see why you find people doing this and they wear like uh, those glasses that so they can actually see what they're doing, jeweler's glasses and the like. I used to have a pair of really cheap plastic visor glasses with different magnifying lenses on it, and then I modded it ages ago, years ago, when I was starting to do streams, so that I could. I actually cable tied one of my webcams to the front of it, so I could wear it, so you could get a point of view, uh, like a first-person view of the soldering process. It was kind of my way of copying. Well, yeah, you could say copying, or doing something different to one-up keyboards. If you remember one-up keyboards, oh man. So one-up keyboards was one of the really first go-getters in the space online, and they did streams where they had soldering cam, where they actually strapped a webcam to the soldering iron handle on their Hako. And so as they were soldering, you could actually see each joint and how it was being done. It was actually really cool. Pete from One Up Keyboard, did really great, and he was a huge supporter of my channel at the time as well. So I appreciate what Pete did for the community back then. And I think One Up Keyboard's probably still around. One Up Keyboards actually was also one of the first to try and get products into bricks and mortar stores. So I know that they had kits that they'd put together and they were selling them in the US into, I think they micro centers is what they were called. So yeah, at the same time, doing something like this, putting together or restringing beads, you could do it as a stream if you had like voice to text set up. I'm a pretty low-tech person when it comes to streaming. I have absolutely very little idea about what I'm doing. I don't have, like a stream deck. I don't do overlays and all that kind of stuff. Uh, I'm just a very low-tech kind of low-key person. So it doesn't help me because I'm focused visually down here and I'm just rambling away. I'd have to keep looking up to see what is actually being written on the screen. Whereas if there was a voice to text mod being used or an app or whatever, then yeah. Or if it was that, you had some support, a moderator or something like that in the chat and they could read it out to you in a call, then, you know, that probably would help as well. All right, we're getting there. We're about halfway through these. So, yeah, good times. Good times. It has been 11 years since I started this hobby. I was talking to my wife about this, and you know, I started in 2014, and keyboards, that is, not Pearl restringing. um, Pearl restringing just started, so whether I'll ever do a second one again, I don't know. My wife, I'm not sure if she actually has any pearl necklaces. She does have one pearl. It is a pendant pearl, and it's actually what I gave her uh, for our wedding. So we didn't exchange rings, as you can see. No rings. I don't wear rings. Uh, my wife didn't get me a ring. She got me some kata ken, so some swords for kata, because we met from kendo at university. And yeah, so pearls traditionally back then, I guess, when we were a bit younger, was more of an older person thing. So, but these days, pearl and fashion for younger generations is certainly more accessible. Yeah, but we're pretty, I wouldn't really say housebound, but we're not massive socialites. So, you know, my wife, we don't go out a lot. We don't go anywhere fancy or high powered on a regular basis. Therefore, we don't have much dress up needs. So, yeah, even if my wife did have pearls, I don't know uh, how often she'd be wearing them. I guess if she had them and we went out, she probably would time to time. But then I guess if that's the case, well, if I can do this set successfully, then I'll be in a good position to ever repair any future sets with at least one under my belt. Fiddly, fiddly work. I can understand why the labor costs for something like this can be quite high. I wasn't quite sure if I was going to record this, but I was talking to people on one of my social discords, not a keyboard discord, and saying how I was going to do a restring, and they asked if I was going to film it. And I said, you know what, think about it. And in the end, I decided I would. And if I was going to do it anyway, well, I might as well share it to the world. With how long this is, though, I'm going to say to, yeah, skip ahead if you want to, because, well, might not be very entertaining to watch the entire process because it could be hours. Could be hours. Or maybe not. Maybe not. Do, 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 do. I would sing to myself, but then I would probably get copyright struck, so I won't do that either. It's a long weekend coming this weekend is a long weekend here in Sydney. So that's why I'm just casually doing it today. Uh, Otherwise, I probably would be doing it on like over a couple of sessions. I mean, I still might have to, depending on how well I do or not do, or how well I get stuck on this process. So one thing that I haven't got here is glue, super glue. So reading around in forums and different videos, some people use it, some people don't. Super glue is one of those things which can be contentious in working with these kinds of things for a couple of reasons. Because super glue, when it dries, it forms a hard crystalline material, and people put it on their knots when they tie off on the ends and stuff. But the issue there is because it is hard and it's crystalline, it also means it can be abrasive. And so by actually having a knot that you've dropped a drop of super glue into, you actually also run the risk that it's going to wiggle around over time and eat away at the threads and cause that thread to wear and break. So double tying it off and then crimping it or using other methods to retain it instead of using glue is something that, yeah, is also sort of talked about. Okay, so we're there. This entire string has now been strung. Okay, so there's my end. There's my other end. And then where the chopstick is the looped end. So now I'm just going to gently draw that through. And there is the full set of pearls. So now what I'm going to do is, they talk about tying it off, and that way it's not going to slip off, fall through, but at the same time, I don't want to tie it off without knowing exactly what I'm doing right now. So I'm just going to keep that there. Okay, so this end will need to go through a loop of some kind. So let's just do it with the jump loop, I think, to start with. Oh gosh, these things are so small. Wait. All right, well, I really only need one of them. So you can go back in and you can go back in. All right, so you, mister, you come back out. All right, so now somehow it is minuscule. It is so freaking small. Okay, so I'm just going to nudge all of you guys down a little bit, and that way it will give me some space to work with. All right, so I'm going to get this that is naturally crimped, and it's just going to go over the end just like that. So it's on, and then what we're going to do is we're going to open that up, and then we're going to pass the whole lot through. So we're going to take this end, which is the needle, and the other end, and we're going to just run that all the way through it, and that should result in I'm going to laugh because this is just going to come right out, isn't it? Yep, it just came right out. Okay, that was not what was meant to happen. It's supposed to go through it. But I think I didn't capture it. You know, like how you put something through and then you sort of loop it? Oh, must not swear profanities or I will be demonetized. Ah. All right, let's try this again. Okay, all right, so the loop is through, but I need to pull everything through the middle of it to form that loop. Yeah, okay, so woo, whoa, this is really scary. If I make a wrong move and all of these fall off, I would be so annoyed. All right, so I've got the loop and I've got the actual silk thread. It's out of focus. There we go. I've got it looped around there. All right, so all right, so we've got this ring looped on. That is the first step, and now we need to tie a couple of knots on the end of this, and this is where we're going to try using this and hopefully not stab ourselves in the process. So good luck and pull that off. This thing, this thing is super sharp. Like this thing will stab you and not even blink an eye. I mean, it doesn't have an eye to blink with, but nevertheless. Okay, so we're going to run a knot like this. Okay, so this is what I've been told. So you put the knot through, and then you will get one end of it, and you will put it through this, and you will pull it. Okay, and then you will pull it until you pull it down, and it will tighten up against whatever it is that you're trying to do the knot against. Oh, this is hard. Hang on, I'm going to do it like this. Okay, yeah, all right. So I'm going to try and show you because this is really hard to see and manipulate. Once again, do not want to lose the end of that. Okay, so all right. So the tool has the knot against the actual bar, and then the free end, which is over this side, right, is pulling that way, and so it cinches the knot up against the sharp probe side, and you can see it's right up against the slip ring, um, the closed loop. Okay, and then in order to maintain it, you pull downwards on this to maintain tension, and then you push the thumb bit up. You push it up, and it will slip it off the actual end of the tool, and it will keep it nice and tight, supposedly. Okay, so that's just popped off there, and well, we can see, well, I can see the focus on this is so bad for little things, isn't it? Well, you're just going to have to trust me that there is a very small knot right there at the end of that slip ring. So we're going to do that a couple of times, and then hopefully that will build up a big enough knot to be able to put the crimp on, because I want to put 2 crimps on it to just make it very similar to what my mother, or what this original necklace had. Oh, what just happened there? The knot fell through? Yeah, okay. So form the loop, it'll go into the middle of the loop. Standard kind of knot, it will just go into there. We will pull it. Oh, it just pulled itself out. What is this magic? Okay. All right, so try not to stab myself. All right, so now it's sitting at the bottom of the tool, and then we will put it against there. We will apply the downwards pressure on it to keep it nice and tight for where it needs to be, and ponk, there we go. All right, so that's double knotted there. I'm not even sure if that's big enough, but let's do a third one. Ah, my fingers are so fat that I feel like I have a disadvantage on doing this kind of work because my fingers are so fat. Okay. All right. Slip it over the top and then keep it tensioned. Okay, so now I've got 3 knots that are bundled up There we go. Oh, look at that. One of them is further down. That last one is further down than the other two. So that didn't work as well as I had intended. But that's... Maybe let's try another one. It's just going to end up being a horrid mass of knots. But at the end of the day, that's kind of actually what we want, because it needs to be fat enough, for the crimp to go over. Alright, now this is where it's getting tangled. This is getting disastrous because I'm pulling the knot in the wrong way. Okay. Let us untangle this. Someone's going to look at this video and they're going to be like, 5 hours? Why is this thing 5 hours long? And there we have it. I've just knotted a knot where I do not want a knot. And this is such a fine threaded thing. And I'm not going to cut this. I am not going to. It's like a slip knot. All right. Okay. Oh, just going to sorry, the focus is completely blown, isn't it? It's not even showing what's happening. So I've got this knot here that I have stuffed up on, and I'm now going to pull out the loop and some forceps to see if I can resolve it, because it will upset me greatly if I cannot. Where even is the knot? It is here. This is really going to bother me. I may have just pulled it tighter or something. That is a catastrophic fail on my behalf, because if this pearl cannot get if these pearls cannot get over that knot, then it is a problem. Okay, so it's got some resistance, so it does actually pull through. Okay, all right. You know what? We're just gonna leave it. We're just gonna deal with that as it is. Wow, it has been almost an hour, and I have made very little progress on this. I don't know how people can do this. They must have incredible, incredible skills that I obviously do not remotely possess. All right, let's tighten up, and we're off. All right, so I think what we might need to do is, I don't know if these crimps will actually crimp on it because this is really small. These knots are really, really small. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I mean, I could put the crimp on it and they won't fall off, but they're just going to move around on it, won't they? Maybe this thickness of strand is just wrong, but they can't be that wrong because they've got a good fit on the actual pearls. Sorry, Grandma. I'm messing up your pearl necklace. Because now all I'm doing is I'm just chaining the knots onto the end of the row of knots. That's all that is actually happening right now. And yeah, if I want to get it to stack on top of another knot, I need to move where it's knotting, don't I? Yeah, okay, onto there. That should do a little bit better. Whoa, no, come back down. Yeah, there we go. Oh no, I've just broken a strand. I thought this stuff is meant to be strong. It's it's killing me. It's killing me. I just broke a strand of it. Too many knots? Look at that. Just broken it. All right, this is going disastrously. So I'm just going to cut that entire lot off, and all of that effort has just gone to waste. Learning experience. Okay, so what I'm going to need to do now though is I'm going to have to trim that knot off. I'm just going to have to knot this end. Yeah, because that's what you're going to do, because I ain't wasting this entire lot. So this will just become a new end knot. Maybe that's what I've got to do. There's the knot. And then I will feed that through, I hope. Actually, I might do it this way. I will put the ring over the top and then I will pick up this thread through the ring like so. There we go. And then maybe I will just tie the knots rather than trying to do it that way. Because you know what? At the end of the day, it'll still work. Alright, so give myself a good amount of tail, because then this will allow me to tie some more knots around that. Yeah, okay. And then we'll go for another one. Maybe I should call this video how to tie knots, how not to tie knots, how not to knot. Yeah, maybe how not to knot. How to not knot. That said, what I have learnt as a valuable lesson is silk thread is actually not that strong when you're brute forcing it, because yeah, my perception of how strong it was going to be is way wrong. But that's probably because I am a fool of a took, and I am a large person with a significant amount of muscle, and for some reason or other, I thought that I would not be able to break a 0.3 millimeter line that easily. When now, if I think about it, that's just idiocy, that I would think that I couldn't break 0.3 millimeters of a line. If it was 0.3 millimeters of fabric for the most part, yeah, I don't know why I thought I wouldn't be able to break it. If it was metal even, like, you could probably still snap it at 0.3 of a mil. So yes, that, I don't know why I had a preconceived notion that was extremely incorrect about how strong that line was going to be. You know what, let's try one of these crimps. If I fail on these crimps as well, then that would be all sorts of bad. Okay, let's just gently extract one for now. I got 10, so I can fail a couple of times before it gets to critical mass. All right, so let's carefully set this up. Somehow. Gosh, I don't know how people do this, eh? You know, the funny thing is, in my previous academic life, I used to deal with stuff this small as well, and I had to work under a microscope. So a long time ago, back in 2012, actually, well, even earlier than that, to be honest, but I was a lab manager, and one of my jobs was actually supporting researchers in preparing specimens for electron microscopy. And we would have to prep stuff for EM, and they were very small. They were extremely small. And they were electron microscope grids and things like that. And if you've ever worked on an EM grid, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Those little copper or gold discs, depending on, what you were working on or with, were a royal pain to have to work with. Oh, well, I think I just flattened the buggery out of that. Once again, a lot of force. All right, let's see what kind of damage I did. Oy. There you go. I've squished one crimp onto that very poorly. The the loop still moves, which is good, but that that crimp is very deformed. I'm just going to try and nudge it so it's a little bit more round. But once again, I have applied a lot of force to that, and I probably shouldn't have. Now the problem here is this end is loose and it may just pop out. So instead of just doing a standard knot, I'm going to try and do a like a figure of 8 type of knot. I don't know what it's called. Is it called a reef knot? I don't know. But then that will also change its direction. So it'll have the ends of it running back up, and that will hopefully, there we go. Yep. There we go. And then what I'll do is I'll pull that back down, and when I put the second crimp on it, I can cut off the excess, as long as I don't cut off the wrong side and snip the whole line. Because if I do that, I'm going to be very upset with myself. Okay, so there's the second crimp. Okay, now let us see how we can get this one on. Okay, so that's on. Maybe. And then we will try and gently. Okay, we've got that on. Now just gently close that up. Okay. Is that moving? Not really. Okay. So let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks like that. Now, to stop the end of it rubbing directly against the pearl that's going to be against it, we will need to do yet another knot. But once again though, we will need to just tie off the end of that knot in a way so that it won't undo itself, because then it will kind of defeat the purpose of that knot. So we will go again with that figure of 8, I don't know, whatever it's called, a reef knot, something like that, and that should keep it happy. Okay. Maybe something like that. All right, and then we will just leave a little bit of a tail on it, and we'll take that end off. And now we have our jump loop end. So let's keep that end very carefully. Now we're going to have the hard part of doing these knots. All right, so I'm going to gently pull that through, and we will see there's a little bit of the tail, but you know what, that's okay. I can live with that. And so now I will pull the necklace through. So now I have a loop. Now I must remember not to pull too tight. So I'm going to you know what's the problem? The problem is that knot that was in the middle of the line already. That is the problem, because it's right there and it is getting in the way of me being able to slip the loop to where, oh, that was bad. Tell you what, this silk thread is slippery. It is a slippery thread indeed. Okay, so I have challenges, technical challenges, but we will adapt and overcome. Okay, so it will. Did I just hit it again? I think I just hit it again. Come, get past it. Yeah, there we go. All right, so that's going to be interesting. Okay, so I've now got the knot where I want it, which is against the pearl. I'm going to put the tension against there, not too much tension, and then I'm just going to push it up, and there it is. A single knot next to that pearl, just gently holding it there. All right, next. All right, we're going to get it past that bump. Okay, now we're going to get that pearl, we're going to sling it through its own loop. We're now going to try and pull that through and see if I can reduce. Okay, that nearly went badly. Nearly had a single slip again. And that knot, once again, is proving to be a problem. So we're just going to have to manually get it around that knot. Okay, there we go. All right, now we can tighten it gently and pop it off. Okay, 2 done. All right, next one along. So this should be a little bit easier now because I don't have to worry about that knot that was in the line. Okay. I hope. All right. Or maybe not. Not. I think the tricky part is just trying to get it up first. Yeah. Then we can do it. All right, so there's 3 of them done, and we can see that as I hold this, they don't fall or slide down, so they're individually knotted together. My kids have just finished watching some before dinner television, and they're like, "What's Daddy doing?" Because this is not a woodworking video, this is not a keyboard video. I am doing something weird, and they don't want to come in and get themselves in trouble by disturbing whatever it is that I am recording myself on. So now that I have this process now slowly under control, what I might do is I might potentially kind of call it a break point here. I will obviously continue to do what I need to do with these, but then what I might do is uh, oh, see, that one wasn't a very good knot because it wasn't right up against it. But you know what? I am just going to keep on going. And I'm not going to let myself get too bothered by it if they're not perfect, because they've survived without having knots between them for however long. So even if a couple of them aren't correctly knotted in between, it is still probably better than how it was. Go, keep that nice and tight. Go. But yeah, there's a lot of these to go. And I suspect dinner is probably going to be just around the corner. So the thing is, since my wife knows that I'm doing this, she's probably not going to potentially interrupt me, which means it might be a really long time before I have dinner. So I might take a break after I do 1 or 2 more of these, and then that way I can do a time lapse kind of me doing the rest of these after dinner or something, and then yeah, we can come back and have a look at the end of this. So see, now I've got a bunch of these and they're hanging on, which is great. It's actually not that bad once you get used to the process, but I think my biggest challenge is going to be how I do the other end. So I need to make sure I have plenty of thread available, because yeah, that'll be a challenge to deal with on the other side. But that's just part of learning. And then, that's another experience I can sort of tick off in that I now have restrung pearls as, you know, as something that I never thought that I would be ever doing in my life. Yeah. So All right, I think I'm going to stop this segment there. I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 of them, and then we will come back with voice after I do the rest. I should count them. Hey, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 30. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 40. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 50. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 60. So there's 60 pearls on this string in this necklace. 60. There you go. 60. Yeah, we will have to see how long that takes me, but we will come back with some voice afterwards. So if you don't hang around for the rest of it, thank you very much for watching and coming along with this journey. Really appreciate it. And of course, yeah, we'll catch you on the next one or the next bit. All right, that took another almost hour and a half to do. Uh, yeah, that was a long effort, and I have this tiny amount of silk thread left. I have just a very small amount and this very flexible needle. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that, but maybe I should just put it back into this packet so I don't lose it. I don't think the needle's going to hurt anybody because it's just a bit of a flexy bit of metal, but yeah, definitely harmful if swallowed. Not intended for use by children 14 or under. So that would include both of my children. So we'll just keep that sealed away. And here we have it. So there's the end that we already saw at the start, where I've just crimped that. I probably should crimp that second one a little bit more. It is round, but maybe I should just press it a little bit firmer. And then this is the claw end. If it'll focus for me. Too close. There we go. So I've just put 2 of the crimps as well on that. I've tied it off quite a bit. And then this very small claw, this lobster claw. Hopefully this will work nicely. There we go. The claw is on, loop on, and there we have it. It is restrung. Wow, so that took me 3 hours basically. But I mean, I was talking for a bit at the start and I was fumbling around trying to figure out how to do it. I think if I had to redo another lot, it would probably be a little bit faster because I would have a little bit better of an idea of technique. I think I did okay for what this is. I actually don't know how big my mother's neck is. I'm not even sure if this would fit around her neck. I mean, I don't know if that would fit around my neck, but my neck is probably a bit larger than that. See, oh, let me just put my hands around my neck. Okay, so mine is about that. So this could almost actually fit around my neck. I think my mum's neck's smaller, so actually this would be a bit of a choker style on that. But you know what? I'm actually pretty happy that uh, we got there. We got there in the end. So there's a little bit of sort of slack on this. It's not a huge amount of slack uh, with just how the knotting forms it, but hopefully it'll be okay. If my mother doesn't like it because it's too tight and she prefers no knots, then that'll be really easy. And I do have the spare set of silk here that I can just cut. And I've got enough crimps and I've got another lot of jump rings, so I can definitely rework this again without any knots. It'd just be way faster just tying knots on the end there. Um, Tool, perfectly fine. This is a bit fiddly. I mean, it does its job, but yeah, I feel like this beading tool probably works better if you're using thicker string or line or silk or whatever. This is very fine, and the knots, yeah, I feel don't work super great with it. It certainly does help, and you could see when I was doing it, I was putting it on the table to pull it through and stuff like that. But yeah, so there you have it. I have restored my grandmother's pearls to a wearable condition, and hopefully, when I see my mum next week, yeah, she'll be very happy to see these again. Well, thank you very much for coming along with me on this journey of learning how to restring some pearls. It's one that I didn't really expect that I would ever do, as I said at the start, but I'm glad that I've got the experience and now I know how to do it. And if I ever have to do it again, uh, yeah, it'll be like riding a bicycle, falling off and grazing my knee. Well, thank you very much for coming along and checking out this video. Of course, if you like this kind of stuff, or if you've got any better suggestions around technique or materials for next time, then please, of course, leave them in the comments below for me. Like button, subscribe button, bell button, the usual. And of course, until next time, happy clacking.